Hi, everybody. Your godmother of horror is here, and I am super duper excited to be here because tonight we are talking about a book that is near and dear to my heart. I got an advanced reading because I'm a special person, but it will be available for all of you in September, and I'm going to put in the chat the pre-order so you can go ahead and start ordering it now if you would like. We are having some issues with Instagram, and I'll see if I can't get that up and running. But right now, here is the link. And the book I am talking about is Discontinue If Death Ensues. And as I said, I got a preview of it, I got a peep of it, and I read the entire thing. And as someone who loves feminist horror, it really spoke to me. But even if you're not into feminist horror like I am, it's so diverse and there's so many different styles and there's really experimental writing going on. I think you will enjoy. There'll be something there for you, right? It's like a big box of candy. There'll be something you enjoy. So please go ahead and pre-order that. Get that on your list. And at the end, I will try to put that back in the chat as well. So we are going to have readings tonight, which is really, really exciting. But before we do that, we're going to have a little bit of a conversation to acclimate all of us to this project, how this came about. So I am going to pick on Carol first. I would like to ask her because she is one of our co-editors. Carol, how did this project come about? How did the Sisters of Foreboding get this book together?
Well, I'm very excited because the five of us, are the Sisters of Foreboding, and I'm just going to do something silly. Can you see my shirt, Sisters of Foreboding?
Oh.
Cindy actually made these for us. The five of us were nominated for a Stoker Award for Superior Achievement in Short Story back for the 2021 year. And it was the first time in history that all of the nominees for the HWA's Bram Stoker Award were women. And I mean, we made history. So we wound up chatting with each other as you do, and we realized that we all had something very much in common with our writing. We frequently had a strong social or feminist bent to our stuff, and we believe in the strength and the power of women. And we got together and came up with the idea from our anthology. So that's how we got here.
And what about the title? Where did the title come from?
That was actually Lee Murray who came up with this for us. Can we ask her to tell about that a little bit?
Lee, are you able to talk about the title?
Yeah, absolutely. We were looking around for titles. I mean, the book is related to climate change and also women's reproductive rights. It's very much embedded in the sort of socio-political moment in which we all came together, and we were all talking about issues that created fear amongst us. Globally, we're all from different parts of the world. And I happen to be reading one of Marge Percy's latest collections.
Oh, I love her.
And yeah, absolutely, this poetry collection, and happened to read this poem, and this line, Discontinue if Death Ensues, just jumped out of me, and I threw it out to the girls, and they all loved it as well. So we were toying with all sorts of different ideas for what might embody this particular piece of this particular anthology. And as you said, Elaine, it's so diverse. There's so many different types of stories and voices here that, what would encapsulate what we were talking about. And this title really spoke to all of us. So I sent a note out to Marge Percy's people, and they very kindly said, yes, you may use this line as your title. So I just think it speaks very clearly to our theme, which is a very complicated theme. But really, we want to see some change, don't we? So Discontinue if Death Ensues seem to be the perfect line for that.
Mm-hmm.
Before we move on, I want to show everyone the cover. If you've not seen the cover yet, it's really gorgeous. It's beautiful. And if I am not wrong, Lynn Hanson, correct, was the artist for the cover. Lynn Hanson did this?
Yes, that's right. Lynn Hanson did the little artwork that's in the circle, and that's taken from a piece on the inside, which is a full page image, and that's one of the ones I have over my left shoulder when we come back to me, the full size piece of it. So basically, it's a woman with a tipping point, with a scale representing the tipping point.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, could we have seen? We were so excited, Elaine. Anna has the actual book in her hands, and we have not seen that before because she's in the UK. This is the actual book. That's the first time we've seen one. Wow.
Make that a little bigger.
That's Lynn's artwork.
Yeah,
that's
in the right direction.
Yes. And Anna was my co-editor on the book, and we were all contributors. Oh my gosh, look at that.
Oh,
It's a thing of beauty. It really is.
Wow. Sorry, I couldn't wait.
No.
I wish you could all have a copy already, but you
It's
will
honestly
soon.
there's a copy on its way to us. Yeah.
And as a horror writer myself, I'm very familiar with Flame Tree. They are extraordinary. They are. Oh, thank you, Lee. Please holding up one of my books. Such lovely, my God. But I'm very familiar with Flame Tree. They are extraordinary. They are a powerhouse of a company. I'm sure that any publisher who saw you five, they would have been dying to publish you. I doubt it was any kind of a challenge to find a publisher for the five of you. But Anna, can you talk about, I'm going to pick on you now, Anna. Can you tell us about how that collaboration happened with Flame Tree?
Well, Lee and I had already worked with them in the past, and Lee will probably tell you a little bit about her cooperation with them in a moment. I had a couple of stories already in their Gothic and fantasy collection of hardbacks, and I was just incredibly impressed by how beautiful their books are. And also their senior editor, Gillian Whitaker, is a joy to work with. And because they're UK based, I was able to meet with the founder of Flame Tree, Nick Wells, and it was actually his idea to include it in the Beyond and Within series, which is their new series, which again Lee will probably tell you more about. But so Nick basically agreed to also have, with our suggestion, to have Lynn Hansen's artwork included.
Oh, okay.
So
Nice. Very
Lee's
nice.
worked with them more, I think, as well.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm starting to get really excited about the readings, but before we dive into those, I was hoping that maybe I'm going to open this up to anybody who would like to speak. I'm hoping that maybe you'll talk about the contributions that your sisters have made to this book, like maybe speak to another writer and what their strengths were within this book.
Well, if I may start, there's one thing that I should have said that I didn't. The basic premise of our anthology is that the Earth has reached a tipping point after thousands of years of abuse of the environment and abuse of women. There's been some changes, some mutations. Some creatures are being born that are different than they were. They may be people. And each of our stories from each of our worlds where we live all around the globe reflect that basic premise or that basic thought. So each of the sisters took that idea and used it in their own stories in just fabulous ways. So can't get over how wonderful it came out.
Yeah, I'll jump in because firstly, speaking a little bit to what Anna said about Flame Tree Press, that absolutely this new series Beyond and Within is especially provocative. Just come out, I think today is the folk horror issue with edited by Marie O'Regan and Paul Kane, and already that's getting some incredible reviews. I'm working currently on This Way Lies Madness with Dave Jeffrey, also from Flame Tree, in this particular series, which is looking at mental illness and horror in ways that are, draped in sort of metaphor. And we've already had 600 submissions for that, so
Wow.
it's a very, very topical issue. So it just was the perfect place for Discontinued of Death Ensues, because this is a very provocative volume, and my Sisters of Foreboding have absolutely bought their best game here. We've got work from Carol, who is just imbued in sort of history, and Carol has this thing where she's very, very good at pulling in historical accounts and doing retellings, and so her stories have that wonderful sort of mythological flavor to them. Cindy and Kyla both bring that poetic language, just beautiful, beautiful work. And they've done shorter pieces, and then Kyla's done this absolutely incredible novella, which has this scientific flavor, really gruesome and gritty. I think you'll like that one. And they both bring those global perspectives. Australia, we get the real feel of Australia in Kyla's work, and Cindy brings that sort of Appalachian sort of country feel to her work. And then Anna, I don't know how she does this, but she has so many different voices. She seems to be able to inhabit these different that is a feature of Anna's work, that you don't know what you're getting when you open up one of Anna's stories, because you just don't know which person, which voice, which character she's going to inhabit, and she does it so well. The voices are so different every time, and so I find that always very refreshing when I open up something of Anna's. And of course her work is entirely on theme. I think she wrote maybe 5 or 6 extra stories for us, and so we had a little bit of an opportunity to choose too. So with Anna, the rest of us were sort of like, oh my God, what are we going to do? But Anna, she just like went with it and ran with it. So we had so much choice with Anna's stories, and so it was really hard to decide. But and I think one of the other things is that Carol and Anna both brought very different things to the editing process. And so that was really nice too, to have these 2 different perspectives, and they were very thorough. So together with Gillian Whitaker, I think they've put together something really beautiful. I'm super proud and honored to be part of this.
Oh, you should be. Yeah. It is a wonderful, wonderful book. I think I'm chomping at the bit to get into the readings. I don't know about anybody else, but I think we should probably start to segue into the readings, and then we can, if time allows, come back out and answer questions. I know people are being very lovely in the chat and chatting, but they're welcome to also ask questions. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start kicking some people out. I'm going to introduce each author, and then I will put their information in the chat, like their website, their social media, so that you have that. So let me start removing some folks here. We're going to start with Carol, and I will remove myself after I introduce her. So let's begin with Carol Gyzander, who, as we said, is the co-editor and an author within this book. Carol Gyzander writes and edits horror, weird fiction, and science fiction in the northern New Jersey suburbs of New York City. She often focuses on strong women with twisted tales that touch your heart. Carol brought a female focus to her Bram Stoker Award-nominated story, The Yellow Crown, which was in the anthology Under Twin Suns, Alternate Histories of the Yellow Sign. And this was edited by James Chambers, and it was inspired by Robert W. Chambers' World of the King. Carol's short stories appear in various magazines and anthologies, including Weird Tales, Weird House Magazine, Cat Ladies of the Apocalypse, and Across the Universe, Tales of Alternative Beetles. The reversal of Roe versus Wade inspired the horror anthology A Woman Unbecoming, co-edited with Rachel A. Brune, which presents stories of women's rage, power, and vengeance, and it benefits reproductive healthcare services. Carol co-edited the Even in the Grave Ghost Story anthology with James Chambers. She's edited 4 anthologies of punk genre stories inspired by classic works for Writer Punk Press. And I am going to actually put her information in the chat. Carol, feel free to take a moment to situate us, introduce what you're going to read, and then go right ahead and begin reading.
Sure. Well, in the anthology, each author's works are grouped together because they represent the different countries or different locations. And each author started with a poem and then 1 or more short stories. I'm going to read my poem, and it's called Bobblehead. You do your job well that day, only to be corrected by a man who is not even your boss. You smile and nod. You love art class after work, but the studio guy critiques your piece before it is even done. You smile and nod. You pull away from Uncle at the family party when he passes by too closely and laughs as he pats your backside. You smile and nod. You try to refuse Uncle's offer to escort you home after the gathering, but he insists it's for your own safety. You smile and nod. You gather your torn clothes after he's done, as Uncle says to consider yourself lucky that he even paid you any attention. You smile and nod. You become restless in your own body. A different energy courses through you, no longer your own, no longer alone. You wonder and nod. You talk to the doctor about your fears. Show him the home test kit since the extra line must be a mistake, right? You smile and nod. You should have used protection, he says. Of course, this happens all the time. Now it's your responsibility to bear. You smile and nod. You ask about alternatives, please, because surely you can't be expected to... No, he says. That's against the law. You pause and nod. You feel your body change as something else takes control and changes how you walk home. Passers-by move out of your way for the first time. You shrug and nod. You gaze in the bathroom mirror with wonder. Pull back your lips and turn your head. The light glints off what it reveals. You grin and nod. You stare at Uncle when he laughs and asks, "Aren't you getting a bit fat?" You run your tongue along those multiple rows of teeth. You bite off his head and smile. That's it.
That's wonderful. I'm so glad you read that one because that really struck me when I was reading it.
Thank
You know,
you.
you and I just talked about the smiling and
Yeah.
also just it resonated with me how much women are ignored by the medical community when we have female issues.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
And it's just like, no, you're fine. You're fine. You're supposed to be like, oh, okay, thank you for, not listening to me or whatever.
Yeah, we say thank you when we're ignored. Yes, that's not
Exactly.
really great. Yeah.
Exactly. So for the audience out there and for those who are going to be watching this in the future as it's taped, that's a nice little snippet of, what's going on in this book. And hopefully this is wetting your whistle and making you want to put this on your bookshelf. So Carol, thank you. I'm going
Thank
to
you.
pull you out and we are going to have our next reader. We are adding to the stage Lee Murray. Allow me to introduce Lee Murray is a writer, editor, poet, essayist, and screenwriter from Aotearoa, New Zealand. A USA best-selling author, her titles include the Tane McKenna Adventures, supernatural crime noir series The Path of Ra with Dan Roberts, fiction collection Grotesque Monster Stories, and several books for children. Her many anthologies include Hellhole, Black Cranes with Genevieve Flynn, and Unquiet Spirits with Angela Eureka Smith. And her short fiction appears in prestigious venues such as Weird Tales, Space and Time, and Grimdark Magazine. A 5-time Bram Stoker Award and multiple Australian Shadows and Sir Julius Vogel Award winner, Lee is New Zealand's only recipient of the Shirley Jackson Award. She is an NZSA Honorary Literary Fellow and a Grimshaw Sargison Fellow, and 2023 NZSA Laura Solomon Cuba Press Prize winner for her prose poetry manuscript, Fox Spirit on a Distant Cloud. And I'm going to put information in the chat box. You can read more about Lee, and then I will leave. So Lee, go ahead and take it away.
Oh, thank you for that introduction, Elaine. I'm going to read from Glow, which I think is probably the experimental work that you were referring to earlier. And this is kind of a found footage, epistolary, speculative story. So I'll start with the producer's comments. We meet her in the lobby of a Motel 6. We leave the light on for you. but conduct the interview in Selta's room. There are only 2 chairs, so she sits on the bed, her boots on the orange protector. By now, her trademark blonde tresses have been cropped short, and even inside she wears oversized glasses, the sort you buy at charging stations. She doesn't allow us to open the windows. She glances at the pendant lamp fixed over the bed. In the oversized glasses, we see the reflection of a moth flitting around the bulb inside the globe. Lisa Selter, former CNN journalist. Cal and I were there. We saw it all. The French conference organisers stationed us in the rear, in an area roped off for the press, velvet tasseled rope no less, along with a couple of blog news folks who verified everything in our report, by the way. You'll want to talk to them as primary sources. I have some contact addresses, although like me, they've been hounded by the original glow lights, and for all I know, they may have moved on after all this time. Anyway, ours was the only network to televise the summit outtakes. The meeting was wrapping up, and it was clear to everyone that there would be no concrete outcomes, nothing that would slow the creeping pollution that had reached the point of no return. Watchdog committee. In hindsight, it's laughable. Did anyone truly expect the corporations holding the biggest slice of capitalist pie to call time on themselves? Oh, those pillars of the earth knew how to sing from the song sheet. They made noises like they cared, as if they wanted to see change, when in reality, they were the ones who had the most to gain from the US government decision to lift all environmental regulations. Don't take my word for it. The full transcript is available as part of the conference proceedings, and even without their grunts and sighs, the careful hesitation and the nervous laughter of the audio recording, their obfuscation jumps off the page. They were laughing all the way to the bank, and they knew it. Anyway, the committee chair, a French grocery tycoon by the name of Pascale-The, declared the meeting closed and asked the delegates to congregate in front of the room for a publicity photograph. Just the delegates, mind, not the secretaries or the translators. So they were all up there, a flock of self-satisfied roosters, buttoning their suits and straightening their cuffs. And for some reason, no one ever ascertained, one of the conference minions opened a window, assailing us all with a gust of hot air. And that's the instant we first saw the glow. Those 6 powerful men, all beacons of industry, suddenly beamed with fluorescent white light. Their skin was luminescent, translucent, shining like proverbial Christmas trees they were, but with solid white light. I blinked at the intensity. I remember Wrights checking out his reflection in the French windows, holding up his hands to his face. His expression was incredulous, but there was this indelible flicker of fear.
And yes, that was what I was referring to when I said experimental. See, audience, that's what I mean. If you get this book, you have masterful writers at the top of their craft doing some really wonderful things. You want this. You want this book.
Oh, thank you for that, Elaine. It's a tricky one. The girls were so responsive to it, and that was so nice because I just really wasn't sure if it was going to fit, and they welcomed it and gave me some great suggestions for strengthening it. So I'm really pleased that it's part of this collection.
Well, we're grateful that you read it for us, and you'll see in the chat box, people are loving it. And people on YouTube, I can see you, so you can chat with us as well. Your godmother sees you and loves you, and you're welcome, YouTube people, to join our chat if you would like. And thank you, Facebook people, for being so wonderful and so chatty in there. We will have some time for questions. I'm going to say goodbye to Lee now. And I am going to invite to the stage Cindy O'Quinn as our next reader. But first, I would like to introduce her. Cindy O'Quinn is a Bram Stoker award-winning writer, author of Quandam from The Nightmare Never Ends, Lydia from the Shirley Jackson award-winning anthology, The Twisted Book of Shadows, The Thing I Found Along a Dirt Patch Road, A Gathering on the Mountain, and One and Done. Her poetry has been nominated for the Elgin, Dwarf Star, and Riesling Awards. She's an Appalachian writer from the beautiful mountains of West Virginia, which are the ideal backdrop for writing scary stories and dark poetry. And I do have some social media links to drop into the chat while Cindy does her reading. Take it away, Cindy.
Thanks so much, Elaine. Um, I want to read a couple pieces from my story, Everyone. But before I start, I want to tell you how Everyone came to be. And it was based solely on a dream. Every now and then, I'll be lucky enough to have a dream that clings to me. Usually, when you get up in the morning, you, you may remember a dream for a few seconds, but if you're fortunate, that dream sticks with you long enough for you to write it down. And Everyone is one of those occasions. So I told my sisters about it, and that's how Everyone came to be and found its way on these pages to create a story for this book. Everyone. Martha Landry stood on a mountain of gathered pain, suffering, and aloneness. She looked out over the valleys, remembering last night's dream, a foretelling of what was to come. The beauty of her mountains would be stripped like all others if something wasn't done to stop the maker of all bad things, not only the mountains, but everything. Her mama had been taking a break from having babies when she got pregnant with Martha. She was but 25, and the disappointment of having a seventh child to raise caused her to spend the rest of her years struggling to remember how to be happy. Martha hid her pain just below the surface because she blamed herself for her mother's suffering. Martha jotted down as much as she could about the dream. She knew the primary things to watch for, and that was festivals, which in the end would lead her to Wheeling, West Virginia. But she started out from Georgia, and it was the season of cotton candy and small town traditions, all in full swing. And according to Martha's dream, she would have to stop at each festival she happened upon. She hadn't gone far when she spotted the point of a big top tent near Raven, a little town called Clayton. Martha parked her car, purchased a gate pass, walked to the bingo tent, and found an empty stool. She sat down and purchased 3 of the hard bingo cards, not the paper ones that you use the dabber on, the old-fashioned ones that had the little windows you slid shut for each number called that you had. She had only had to play one game when she yelled, "Bingo." Her card was read and the match confirmed. "What do you have, ma'am?" asked the man to see what prize she would claim. "I'll have the infant starter set." It contained onesies, bibs, a hooded bath towel, wash rag, and binkies. "Here you go. Got a bun in the oven, darling?" The man with the giant chaw of tobacco crammed in his cheek winked at her. If Martha could have, she would have stared a hole plumb through that man's face and watched as all that brown goo oozed out the other side. What she didn't realize is if she had thought on it a little harder, that very thing would have happened. Up on a shelf, like many other gifted women, sheltered and unaware of the power flowing through them, like a flower that made bud but never bloomed. The dream, young, unassuming women scattered about the world, experts at being invisible, the unnoticed ones, but they were all gifted, and the time to make use of their gifts drew nigh. Like all the gathered words in this book, the theme remains the same. Change is coming, hopefully for the good. Thank you.
Thank you. And your setting is so powerful. Like you really feel like you're there as you're reading. It's so, plus your voice really adds wonderful reading. Thank you so much,
Thank
Cindy.
you.
Okay, so Cindy, I'm going to say goodbye to you, and I'm going to say hello to Anna Taborska. Anna Taborska writes horror stories and screenplays. Her body of work includes 3 short story collections: Bloody Britain, Shadow Cats, and For Those Who Dream Monsters, which was the recipient of the Dracula Society's Children of the Night Award. Anna's stories have appeared in over 40 anthologies, including the Best Horror of the Year, Volume 4, Best New Writing 2011, Best British Horror 2014, Year's Best Weird Fiction Volume 1, Best New Werewolf Tales Volume 1, and Nightmares, A New Decade of Modern Horror. She has been nominated for a British Fantasy Award thrice and for a Bram Stoker Award 5 times, including for her illustrated storybook, A Song for Barnaby Jones. Anna has also directed 5 films, including the award-winning drama The Rain Has Stopped, and worked on 20 other film and TV productions, such as the BBC PBS series Auschwitz, the Nazis, and The Final Solution. So Anna, I wish you weren't so lazy and you could get a little more done. You're very, very prolific. While you're reading, I will put some things in the chat for everybody, and go ahead and start when you're ready.
Elaine, thank you for the introduction. I'm going to read an extract from my story, Mummy Mia, in which an Egyptian mummy is found in a flat in West London, and eventually it turns out that it's the mummy of a young priestess called Mia, who met a grisly death. Her tongue was cut out and she was sealed alive in a tomb over 2,500 years earlier. And in this extract, scientists are trying to recreate her voice by animating her vocal cords, which have been pretty well preserved. Dr. Hendon continued to hold Mia's mouth open, while Bob gently pushed a thick, large, plastic-encased, blunt-tipped needle past the shriveled stump of her mutilated tongue and towards her vocal folds. The proboscis-like instrument was attached to a device that combined a small portable respirator with an electric impulse generator and would produce the stimulation needed to activate Mia's vocal cords. "Ready?" asked Bob. Mutterings of agreement reassured him that they were. Holding the metal tip of the probe against Mia's vocal cords, Bob cast a final quick look at the settings on the attached device, then pressed the power button. For a moment, there was silence, or so it seemed. Everyone waited with bated breath, and just as Bob was about to make a second attempt, they heard it. A sound the likes of which none of them had ever heard before. It started so softly that it was no sound at all, and then it swelled, low-pitched, eldritch, unnerving, like a death rattle, like a gust of diseased air blowing through papyrus reeds, like the dry desert wind that brings locusts and madness. It grew in volume and in pitch, becoming a woman's cry of pain and terror, and then a blood-curdling animal roar of boundless rage. The overhead neon lights flickered. The film crew's light went out. The camera battery failed, and objects in the lab started to vibrate as though their fundamental frequency had been triggered. Then the electronic device that was animating the mummy's vocal cords fell to the floor, taking the probe that had been inserted into Mia's mouth with it, and the room was plunged into silence once more. As the stunned team recovered from their experiment, eyes glued to the desiccated remains before them, they failed to notice the vast, two-legged, lioness-headed shadow that rose from the darkness at the far end of the lab, moved behind a row of tables, then disappeared.
I have so much anxiety right now. That made me so anxious. In the best of ways, it made me anxious. Like the way it was supposed to make me anxious. It did. That was wonderful. Now my heart's like do 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 do. And I even know what I read it. I know what's happening, but it still got me. Still got me all aflutter. Thank you so much, Anna. I'm going to say goodbye to you. And last but certainly not least, we're welcoming to the stage Kyla Lee Ward. And if I could just introduce her, Kyla Lee Ward is a Sydney-based creative whose work has garnered Australian Shadows and Aurealis Awards. She's placed in the Ricelings and received multiple Stoker and Ditmar nominations. Reviewers have accused her of being gothic and esoteric, weird and exhilarating, and of giving me a nightmare. This attraction, now open till late, is her first collection of short fiction, released in September 2022 by Independent Legions Publishing. This joins the previously published The Macabre Modern and The Land of Bad Dreams, collections of poetry and essays from Priya Press. Her work on RPGs, including Demon the Fallen, saw her appear as a guest at the inaugural Gen Con Australia. An artist and actor, as well as an author, her short film Bad Reception screened at the 3rd International Vampire Film Festival. And she is a member of the Dead House Immersive Theater Company. A practicing occultist, she likes raptors, swordplay, and the Hellfire Club. And if you're really interested in learning more about her giving you nightmares, I'm going to put some things in the chat box. You can continue to follow her. So Kyla, go ahead and take it away.
Oh, well, yes, when we divvied up the word count, I decided to use all of mine at one hit. And the result was Maleficium. A rather grim and curious tale of the near future in a Sydney that has been partially flooded by rising seawaters. The protagonist, Xanthe, works in the Sydney Coroner's Office, and she has quite recently made a series of disturbing discoveries. He lay half on slime, half in water, limbs unnaturally lax and still, chest barely quivering as he fought for breath. A man with the bronzy skin and black curls of the Torquay diaspora, face blue, lips drained and grey. He showed no awareness as she hunkered beside him, hand reaching automatically for the pulse in his neck. She was gloved, but still it seemed erratic. This was a whole body event, a toxic reaction as violent as anything she had ever encountered, a throat being cut cell by cell. You can't help him, Dr. Cosmo. You know that. The rich, warm voice sounded directly behind her. And knowing what I dare say you've discovered about who they are and what they do, why would you try? Xanthe remained squatting. I'm a doctor, she answered. You don't save lives, Gleason answered. At best, you vindicate them. I collect evidence. I dare say this man has done horrific things, and I would be so glad to catch him out. But I can't just sit here and pass sentence. So what's your theory? A parasite, maybe the larval stage of a moon snail variant. They'd be the size of pinheads. This man was dying. It was too late for any other intervention. If she didn't start CPR, he'd be dead within minutes. Xanthe Cosmo removed her mask. A true doctor. Go on then. She saw his mouth then, as the orifice of an octopus or snail, puckered and grooved. It's on his lips, his tongue. That's why it's taken him so quickly, though it must have been a massive dose. If I touch him, the toxin will pass to me. A hero's death, some might say. Thank you.
Wow, wonderful. Each reading, I keep going, how can this get better? How can this get better? And each reading has been so amazing, so wonderful. I see people are saying they're already pre-ordering, and I am putting the pre-order link back in there if you've not pre-ordered yet. And I'm going to invite everyone back to the stage now. Certainly, audience, if you have questions or comments, feel free to put them in the chat box. Otherwise, Sisters of Foreboding, if you have comments or questions, feel free to, talk. We have a few more moments.
Well, I'm just going to say I've never met Anna in person. I've met all my other sisters and been able to give them a hug, but I've never met Anna in person. I'm actually quite terrified to do that.
She's lovely. She's lovely. I did get to meet her when I went to London. That was one of the reasons I went. Yes. Oh my goodness. Just don't let her be behind you, because there's like this vampire thing that follows her. So yeah. One of the things that I'm just so excited about, hearing each of us read these stories. We are from all around the world, and our stories reflect our locations and where we are, and hearing them in the voice of the location, the voice of the author, it just makes my heart so warm, because it helps bring out the creep factor very well. So, thank
Carol,
you. Do this.
that's what I was thinking as well. I mean, here we are, 5 women scattered about the world. It really feels like we were brought together at this particular moment in time to write this book. And I'm just so thrilled to be part of it.
Yes.
We have a really good question from Teal James Glenn in the chat that actually, as someone who edits as well, I'm very curious. The question is, how was the editing of so many world language trees? I know there are different styles in the English speaking world. Like, did you pick okay, we're going to use American spelling? Like, how did this work?
Okay. That's a good question. And yes, there are different styles all around the world. And I kind of did a deep dive because I am insane and compulsive. My nickname is Twitchy. But I looked into the different editing styles. And of course, the US ones, I could handle US, me and Cindy. And as far as New Zealand and Australia, what I learned, and then I talked to the sisters as well. And Anna and I decided, they agreed, it all made sense to do those 3 countries together in, UK or British style editing. So Lee, I think what you said was you're so used to having your words re-edited for the style of whoever the editor was that you weren't too precious with it. But all we really had to do was change punctuation in a couple spots and, M dashes or N dashes and things like that. But I think it makes sense to me to keep it in as close as possible to the style of the author. And that was one of the other reasons that Anna and I wanted to group them in sections by author, so that your head didn't go explode as you flitted back and forth from story to story in different editing styles.
That was very smart. And some of the stories did have little footnotes and things for the reader to try, like when it was something that was really, I know Lee had a few in hers. It was something that was really, really cultural that maybe an American reader such as myself would not pick up on. There was little notes for the reader as well.
And Carol put together a very impressive guide for the different spellings.
Our style sheet, yes.
Very impressive.
Yeah, because when you get partway through, you forget what you were doing.
And I also
we were really looked after. The 2 of them were so thorough. It was really nice. And also, I'm an anthologist myself, and as an editor, as a writer, when you can trust your work to someone and they're giving it the same care that they would give their own work. And so to me, it was whatever they decided was going to be okay for me, because I knew that they were approaching it as they would their own work. So that was really nice.
What was unique and incredible as well is that every single one of us took the time to read everybody else's stories and give help and give feedback. And we had lots of meetings. Everybody gave sort of time to think about how to move forward and how to help everyone. And every single person had knowledge of different amazing things which they could use to help the others with their stories. As one example, Kyla has incredible knowledge of antiquities, of ancient Egypt, you know, ancient civilizations. So she was very helpful with my mummy story. But basically, everyone was helping everyone else with their work, which was really quite unique. I think we could do that because there were only 5 of us, but you know, it wasn't compulsory. And everybody
No.
chose to help everyone else and give up a lot of their time. So that was amazing.
Yes, it was a very cooperative effort, and it really helped because something that an American would understand in my story, someone from the UK or from New Zealand might not understand, and we were able to get that feedback from each other and for each other.
Well, the process as a whole was just so exciting, right from the get-go, and although we agreed on this theme, the different ways we applied it and the different disciplines, incredible breadth and scope, all in this book. It's quite breathtaking.
It is. And I'm sure, I mean, I've had that experience too, where you're working with other writers and it just motivates you even more. Writing can feel very solitary at times and very lonely. And, you know, having other people there to keep pushing you forward and helping you. That's wonderful. And I hope you're all taking a moment to look in the chat, because people are being so supportive about this book and pre-ordering it too, which is great. Does anybody want to talk about any other projects they're working on right now? Anyone want to take a minute to just, you know, like Lee, do you have anything coming out right now that you would like to
do I have anything coming out right now? I have Fox Spirit on a Distant Cloud. It's just kind of above me up here, and that's a prose poetry collection that's come out by the Cooper Press in New Zealand. But really exciting, I have my feature film coming out on the 12th of September. It's called Grafted. It's a New Zealand feature film it's directed by BAFTA nominated director Sasha Rainbow. So really excited about that. I've been to the premiere. It's a first for me. So yeah, I'm really excited. And it's a very feminist story as well. So kind of fits the theme here.
Wonderful. Anna, what about you? Anything you would like to plug in addition to this book?
Well, I've got a couple of. I've mostly been sort of drawn back into the film industry a little bit, so I'm writing a couple of feature screenplays. I'll hopefully be working with the Raindance Film Festival in London a bit more next year, and somehow I managed to go to Vegas unsupervised, and I've ended up co-producing a film called Naked Alien Massacre. So
Wow.
see what happens with that. And I've got a few short stories coming out.
No, that's right up my alley. Oh yeah, that sounds fantastic.
We'll see. I hope so. So.
Where will people be able to see that, Anna?
It's hopefully gonna shoot in February, but I don't know. I'm at the producer's beck and call, so we'll see what happens.
Okay.
I think he's looking for a nudist colony to shoot in at the moment. Okay. So I'll keep you posted.
Yes, please do. Please do. I want to see that. Kyla, what about you? Do you have anything you would like to plug? Anything we should be looking for?
Well, my most recent release is the novella Those That Pursue Us Yet from Independent Legions Publishing. That's available. A tale of when you shouldn't try and live your dreams. And right at the moment, I'm in rehearsals for Tales from the Dead House, Season 5. We're doing a story based on a rather terrible murder that happened in the 70s Yes, Huckstep versus Rogerson will be playing at the St. James Crypt in October.
Nice. Wonderful. Cindy, what about you? Do you have anything we should be looking for?
I do. I believe it's on October 4th. Bestiary of Blood by the incredible Jamal Hodge comes out through Crystal Lake Entertainment. And I'm thrilled to have two stories in there, one that I wrote myself, one that I co-wrote with the amazingly talented Wayne Fenlon from Scotland.
Wonderful. We'll look for those. And Carol, what about you? What should we be keeping our eye out for?
Well, I have a couple of things. Ruth and Anne's Guide to Time Travel has just come out. I have a short story in there, and I have a story in Grim Retold from Speculation Publications, which is coming out very shortly. And I am excited to say that I'm working on Dark Spores. This is a Lynn Hansen cover, which is why I'm holding it up. And it's very exciting. This is mushroom horror. So that will be coming out in the fall. And we have a poem from Lee Murray in there. So that's kind of exciting. So,
Oh, nice. Very nice. Okay, well, we are coming up on the hour, and I really appreciate our audience sticking with us through this reading. And I mean, obviously, you were riveted and didn't want to leave. I can't imagine anyone jumping out early, but we are winding down. If you have any final questions or comments, please feel free. Those of you who are watching this later, those of you who are watching in the future, hi, future people, if you have any questions or comments, you can go ahead and still put them into YouTube, into my channel, and I will make sure that whoever you're directing the question to, I'll make sure that they get that question. So don't feel that even if you were unable to attend live, that you don't have a chance to say what you need to say. You can reach out to me and I will forward your information. So we're getting a lot of thank yous in the box.
I have one question for you, Elaine.
Yes.
What do you have coming up soon?
I've had thank you for asking. I've had an unusually prolific year. I've been in like 4 or 5 anthologies, which I'm afraid I'm going to forget one if I start naming them. So instead, I will talk about the 2 books that I had this year, which the one was The Kitchen Witches, which Lee is graciously holding up for me. And the other is The Language of Crows, which is a collection of short stories. So thank you so much for asking. And if people are interested in those, I am easy to find. You just put in Elaine Pascale and you can find me, find my website, find my information.
Cool.
So yes, everyone's saying wonderful readings, absolutely wonderful, fantastic readings. We will go ahead and end this stream, but it will be housed on YouTube. So if you want to watch these readings again, you have the opportunity to watch those multiple times. Thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you, Elaine. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Elaine.